for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
So, this whole idea, we talk about the cases during the week, and this is what came up. I got a call about 3 days ago. And the call came in and somebody telling me that my Social Security number had been suspended. I didn't know that a Social Security number could be suspended. That was news to me.
Unfortunately, she's calling a lawyer.
Yes.
And a guy that's a half comedian.
And a smart aleck.
So, smart aleck.
So I said, well, absolutely, I want to know what's going on. And I figured I knew this was not above board when she went to verify my zip code, and she says, is your zip code 95,677? I was like, well, that's not how we usually mention zip codes here, but okay, I'll play along.
Why,
that's
yes,
what it is.
It is.
Yes, it is. Right. So she went through and told me that my Social Security number had been used to open up no fewer than 25 bank accounts, and that those bank accounts had been used to funnel money to drug cartels and also to finance terrorism.
Huh.
And then she hit me with the hook when she said, now, sir, did you open these bank accounts to funnel money to drug cartels and finance terrorism? At which point I said, yes, I did.
IRS is filing lawsuit against you. To get more information.
Todd, which she didn't, by the way, just for the...
I didn't, but I told her that I did, and there was dead silence. And you could tell her supervisor was touched. She goes, sir, I want to make sure, are you saying that you opened these bank accounts to funnel money to drug cartels and to support terrorist activity? And I said, yes, I was bored.
The IRS is filing lawsuit against you. To get more information.
So did she hang up on you?
Well, she stammered a little bit and then said, well, we'll send you something in the mail, because apparently people who open 25 bank accounts to do all this are entitled to some sort of notice, and I have received nothing since.
But she should have said, we're sending the police over.
And that also is a common scam. The more common one that people get are things like the call that comes, and tragically these target the elderly, all right? And the call goes like this. Ma'am, there's a warrant out for your arrest because you didn't show up for jury duty, or you got a ticket or something. And the officer is on the way to arrest you. But if you can get us money, I'll call the officer and tell him not to show up. And it freaks people out, and they get suckered every day.
IRS is filing lawsuit against you.
Yep, that's right.
So,
that too. IRS, by the way, is a big hammer.
Yep.
Yes.
Big hammer.
Yes, and so one of my elderly relatives was called, and my kids, they travel a lot. So the person told
All
me
right,
that...
we got to wrap it up. We're going to come back and follow up with this in a second.
Yeah, I want to hear the story, Denise. Sorry, but we're out of time. Don't go.
Yeah, I had one of my elder family members received a phone call saying that my son was in Mexico, had been arrested, and that he needed to have $1,000 to get out, and he was asked by my son to call her and ask for it, that he couldn't get in touch with his parents. And so she was ready to write the check or to make the the payment over the phone with a credit card, and thank goodness she thought enough to call my husband first. So when she called him, my husband said, no, he's not in Mexico, he's in school right now, and there's no way that this is real. And so thank goodness she didn't get scammed, but they were trying really hard.
One of the things to be careful, especially with the elderly, and even not just the elderly, but their grandkids, is their use of social media. Here's the scenario. We've seen this happen. I used to prosecute elder abuse, and this is the scenario. You got a kid who puts all this stuff all over Instagram, Facebook, and stuff, and he talks about the trip he's taking to Cabo or to Cozumel or to Mexico, and he doesn't have his friends list private, and somebody gets on there and says, oh, Junior's going to Mexico. Hey, there's Junior's grandmother, and I'll be danged, I got her phone number on Facebook. So, now she knows he's there, right? All somebody has to do with that information is pick up the phone and call and say, he's down here. And she thinks, well, I know he was going, and so I'll help out. And you know what? Nobody is any the wiser because they ship it via Western Union. And if you don't stop that payment via Western Union within 24 to 48 hours, you're never getting it back.
Right, and a lot of times when elders have been scammed, they're so embarrassed about the scam that they don't want to tell people.
Right, right.
And they're very easy prey for these
And
robocalls.
usually it's a lot of it is like $1,000, and they say it's not worth $1,000 for me to embarrass. And that's a lot of money to some, but a lot they're saying, hey, it's only they're not going to fight over $1,000 and go tell people and look stupid.
Besides, they're never going to get it back.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. So
I mean, the money's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
if you made a mistake, the money's now out of country.
That's right.
I mean, I've done a lot of stories on that. The cops say, well, what do you want us to do? They're in,
Bangladesh,
they're out
or
of the
something.
sea. We're
Yeah.
beyond the sea. What do you want from us? Right?
Yeah. So the general rules is this thing called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. So just so those of you who are out there that know, here's the general rules. There's a lot of different scenarios and exceptions. We're not going to go in deep detail. Again, look it up yourself or talk to a local attorney. But generally, the solicitors cannot call your house before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. They must honor that there's a company-specific do not call list for customers. Don't forget, you can be on the company do not call list or the national do not call list. If they call and you say, take me off your call list, they have to take you off the call list. And what you want to do is you want to keep a note. This is the time they called. This is the phone number that called, and I told them not to call me back and take me off the list. That's the other thing. Also, they can't use automated dialing or pre-recorded voices without your permission. However, there are a few exceptions we're going to get to in a second. Also, this applies to your cell phone without your permission. They cannot do it on your cell phone without your permission. Now, here's some exceptions. So one exception is if it has to do with political ads or political groups, there's exceptions there, and there's and there's options with nonprofit can use recordings to some degree. But you have to look in the details of those options. But
the big thing on cell phones now is spoofing you with what looks like a local number.
Right.
And then they say, congratulations, thank you for staying at a hotel you've never stayed at.
Right.
And it's all pre-recorded. And so you hit the number that says, take me off your list, and you'll get the same call I have anyway, 4 or 5 times in the same day, but from a different number.
Right.
So apparently they think they're running around the law that way. Is that possible?
Yeah, apparently they're always trying to get ahead of the law, and they're always trying something. A lot of times, don't forget, these aren't local people that are calling. They're calling from offshore. So that's another thing. By the way, if they are found liable, and you can find them and sue them and get some money from them, it's between $500 and $1,500 per unauthorized call.
Wow.
Wow,
Our
that's
case
a
or no
lot.
case last week was a lady in Nebraska. Furniture company called. She won $560,000 from this company, kept harassing her, even though she was paying her bill on time and so on. So every call she made a note, and it ended up being $1,500 a call or whatever. She got $560,000.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
There was some.
Yeah, no, I was, the FTC has won some pretty big cases recently. There's a sham charity that was called Veterans of America, and they got them to where they can no longer do robocalling at all or assist anybody else in robocalls. The same thing against 3 individuals and Point Blank Media, and they now are precluded from doing any kind of robocalling or assisting any other business from doing that. So most of these are cease and desist kind of things where they win that restraint. Against Net Solutions, there's 3 defendants involved in that matter. They cannot provide any supplies, no auto dialers anymore to any company. That's it. And then you're talking about and they have to also pay $1.35 million, which is a big win. The last one that's very recently out was Higher Goals Marketing. They operated a credit card debt relief kind of a scheme that was a sham scheme. And there was another case that came down that said you can't do that. So they won against this company as well.
So the question is, what can you do to protect yourself? And specifically, what I'm going to focus on here is, what can you do to protect the elderly, family members and whatnot? And I've got a couple of suggestions. First, look, you're not going to stop these calls from coming in. It's going to happen, and folks are going to get scammed. The first suggestion I have is if somebody does get taken advantage of, the last thing you really want to do is scold them with the, what were you thinking? How come you didn't do this? It's not going to change anything. It's not going to get the money back. But what it will do is intimidate your family members from coming to you in the future if they know they're going to get chewed out because of something they did here. So that's just my first suggestion. The second suggestion that I have, there are things, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. There are already things in place legally. A lot of financial institutions have a responsibility if they see something suspicious coming in, like the person, I was aware of one person that got this scam, and they went to one financial institution to get the money to pay the scammer, and I think it was Walmart they went to. They wouldn't pay. They wouldn't let her buy the stuff because they recognized it as a scam, and that's great that people will do that. But another suggestion that I have is this. If you have a friend or a family member, somebody who is a lawyer, okay, you may want to approach them to see if you can retain them for a nominal amount for the sole purpose of being able to give any robocaller who calls the number of your attorney, call them, I'm represented. 99.99% of the calls will never be made to the attorney. But this is what you can know if you suspect it's a scam. If somebody calls you saying that you are potentially guilty of criminal activity and you say, I'm represented, call them, they can't keep talking to you. They have to call your attorney. And if they keep talking to you, you know it's not legit. If it is legit, they'll call the attorney, and then you and your family member or friend can work that out, representation. But it's an easy way to take the judgment off of your plate and put it somewhere else to nip it in the bud.
I also think that you need to go to the National Do Not Call Registry. That is you can report unwanted calls. They'll get to the FTC, hopefully. You can verify that you're registered there, and you can register your phone there or your relatives' phones there. That's really important because it has a link that sellers and telemarketers can go to see if you're on that list. And if you are, and they call you, they know it's a crime.
Right.
And that's really important.
Here's a way that other people do it that's even funnier, I think. Don't forget those robocall revenge people out there. Go to YouTube. It's fun to listen to. Robocallers or individual, you could kind of find where they are. They're able to find them. They call into their sales force, and they try to keep them on the phone as long as possible. Because don't forget, these guys get paid or gals get paid by the amount of money they bring in or by the amount of people they land. And to keep them on the phone for a long period of time by letting them really think that you are the real person is just hilarious. And they get so mad, and it's just fun. So anyway,
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.